Hi y'all, it's Andrea at Sewspire.com, and I am so thrilled to welcome you to the sixth session of AMC, which is my design masterclass. For those of you that are just joining us and this is your first masterclass, you are in for a wonderful treat. There has yet to be a masterclass session that did not exceed all of my expectations. I am left feeling inspired, renewed, and in absolute awe of your talent. And then there's this whole dynamic that happens where we co-create or co-design together. And that, I think, is my favorite part. So whether you are just joining us or this is your sixth masterclass, there is something for everyone here, from the novice sewer all the way to the seasoned seamstress. I'm just so happy that we can meet and do this. Looking back when I hosted my first masterclass and got that initial taste of what it's like to co-design, I thought I can never duplicate this process again. I will never have another masterclass. This is it. I want to remember it at its best. And then I did have that second class and that third and that fourth and that fifth and that sixth, and who knows how long it will go on. As long as there are people participating, I will show up and we will continue to evolve the process. So much like the fifth session, this is going to be a hybrid in which I will teach and present around a singular project, and then you have the option of following my process or mirroring my design process, or you can co-design alongside of me and deviate where desired, or you can start completely from scratch, as I have with this design, and work alongside of us creating your own unique design. So that's what I mean by there's something for everyone, regardless where you are in your design process. You can jump on here at the beginning of this session and be challenged and engaged through the whole process. So the way this program works is there are 4 weeks. On Monday, I will publish a new video discussing my design process in relation to the project that I am working on for the next 4 weeks alongside of you. And then on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will come together as a group on either Crowdcast, if I can figure that platform out, or Zoom. Right now, I've played a bit with Crowdcast and I'm not super comfortable with it. I only have a few days left to figure it out. So if I don't have that high comfort level with that dashboard, then I'm going to go ahead and have us meet on Zoom. Both are going to offer you an awesome experience. I was just trying to streamline some of the back end for myself. And by streamline, I mean Crowdcast generates an immediate link of the recording so I could share that with you all much faster. Whereas on Zoom, I have to download it and then upload it to YouTube. So I was hoping to be able to do that, but I'm still crossing my fingers on that Crowdcast versus Zoom. Another thing that Crowdcast does is it has a whole live chat bar, so you all can really be interacting on the chat while a handful of us are sharing on the main screen there. And it also lets me give you all a larger view of the person speaking. So I thought that would be really nice. And then there is the ability for us to do polls and such. So I'm hoping I have a few more days left that I can figure Crowdcast out for us. But again, we have Zoom as the backup if we need. So what I like to do in this first video is paint a picture for you of my design process, which I think is somewhat unique and primarily due to the fact that I am a visual learner. I have never had success with written patterns, which is how I came to even be a bag maker and bag designer and pattern designer, is that I just could not read and follow the instructions and then create a product that I was proud of. Somewhere in there was always a disconnect. And so once I started venturing out on my own and creating my own designs and my own prototypes, then I was able to modify those to suit my tastes and meet my needs. And I found that process to be so rewarding. And I've had a lot of success doing that. When I closed my Etsy shop at the beginning of 2020, I had more than 7,500 sales. So not only were my designs well received by consumers, but then, as you all know, on the Sewspire end, I've created hundreds of tutorials, most of which, 99% of them, were my original designs. The remaining 1% were inspired by someone else's design, and then I refined either the tutorial, the teaching process of it, or tweaked the design a little bit to suit my own taste. So a lot of experience there with the design process, but again, it's somewhat unique in that I don't go about it in the traditional manner, because first I have to be able to see it or I can't manifest it. And so that's what I teach here, somewhat reverse engineering the design process. And it is a lot of fun to do that. And then simultaneously, you all are engaged in that process and we learn from you as well. So it really is a unique, fun, inspiring process that we're about to engage on. And I'm super excited to get started with you. So my design process looks like this, best I can tell, but each time I run this workshop, I learn a little bit more about my process. So I've narrowed it down to 2 channels in which I design, and that either begins with identifying a need, which usually is my own need. The first consideration for me is generally function. What purpose is this product going to serve? And so I identify that, and I'm really clear about that. And then I start to think about style and how it's going to look in relation to function. And then that's when I turn to the design book and sketch out some rough drawings of that. I like to do the bird's eye view of that, the side view of that. And then that's when I can start calculating measurements and fabric requirements and things of that nature. And then I start to build the prototype. Now, depending upon the complexity of the design, I might make a fabric prototype in which I sew that from inexpensive fabric and then see how the pieces come together. Another really fabulous, fun option is to create a paper prototype. And you could do that with packing paper. You could do that, for that matter, with newspaper is awfully fun. Wrapping paper, whatever you have, you would cut out like size pattern pieces, tape it together, and then see how that looks. Like, oftentimes we are uncertain of the size, and a paper prototype gives you a really good idea of the scale of your project. So that's what I mean by prototype. And 9 times out of 10 with a new design, I will absolutely build a prototype. And I always learn from that process. Sometimes I will build the prototype out of material that I like, so I can keep it and use it, because when I'm using the product, I have a much better idea of how it feels on the body, how it actually functions. So you don't necessarily have to go with that traditional muslin or ugly fabric. You have a lot of options there when you're looking at the prototype process. Now, the second design stream that I have, which is so much more intriguing to me than this need/function based design process, is this conceptual design process, whereby inspiration strikes and you don't necessarily have a need or a purpose. And you know this is happening because you're excited. You're super excited. You can't stop thinking about this idea. And that inspiration, for me anyways, I can play with it for weeks, months. I even have some ideas that I've been playing with in my mind for years. One of them is to design a bag with 100 pockets. And that's been years. It might be a decade in the making in my mind. I find when it's this kind of concept-based design that I rather enjoy letting it just run around in my mind for as long as it takes. And I know that I have reached the next phase of that process when I can visualize it. Right now, I still cannot visualize the 100 pocket tote bag, other than I know it has a lot of zippers and the pockets are layered, but there's still not a clear vision. So it will continue to run around my mind and resurface every so often. And until I actually have a clear visual of that design, it will not make it into the design book, and then I can't move to the next step. So this conceptual design process can take substantially longer than the needs-based design process, but I think the conceptual one is a heck of a lot more fun for me. But at the same time, you just don't know when inspiration will strike, and you can't rush the process. So it's basically completely out of your control. And so for some folks, that's kind of hard to play over there in that invisible space. For me, it is the reason behind all that I do. So I really can't imagine doing any of this if I didn't get a play over here some too. But I wouldn't have ever had any kind of business or focus if I didn't, spend most of my time in this needs function-based world, which allowed me to create the 7,500 plus designs, because I understood the need and the function. So both are beautiful. Once that visualization comes to me and I capture that in the design book, it still doesn't mean a prototype ever comes to life. I have lots of sketchbooks full of cool designs that I just never did anything with, largely because there wasn't a need, and my studio space is chock full of prototypes and and bags that I've made for myself. So I really don't need to produce more product unless I have a need. The bag that we are going to work on in this 6th session of AMC is an example of that inspiration, conceptualization based design process that I love so much. I just had a really clear visual of how the interior of this bag looked. It had me super excited for months as I waited for a need, because no one's traveling, so I didn't personally need a duffel bag for myself. But this course, the 6th session of AMC, was the need. It was a cool, novel design for me to share with you all. And so that's when it made it into my design book, is when the need presented itself. And then this, because this is an interactive design course, the bag is actually gonna come to fruition. So that's really cool. Every duffel bag I've ever made, I still have. So chances are good when we can roam freely about the planet, I will be using this bag. The design of this bag is so cool. It could be used for other things as well. So that's the 2 primary streams that I play in within my design process that I'm going to be sharing with you over the next 4 weeks. And then once I get into the actual production part of this and the designing, I again, regardless on both sides, consider function. How will the finished piece be functioning? That's really important to identify. You need to know how it's going to be used. Even if you're giving it away as a gift, whoever opens it is still going to go, what is it? What does it do? Right? That's just human nature. So you do need to know how you're going to use the piece. Then you're going to need to know what needs this piece is going to have to meet. Like there can be special needs that you want to meet with your duffel bag if you're going to make the same project as I am. You might need certain kinds of pockets and such to hold certain contents, right? Like a travel bag, it's really nice to have a zipper pocket for your passport and cash and things like that. You're gonna need to know approximately what size you want this to be. Like I wanted to keep mine within airline regulations for traveling. You're gonna need to know what kind of materials related to function, not style. Durability, washability, waterproof perhaps, strength, comfort, that kind of stuff. Like knit would totally not be appropriate for a bag, whereas a canvas would be super appropriate, but not possibly washable. So you can get a nice compromise there. And then you have, your hardware can be functional, your interfacing can be functional, and so forth. The layout of the piece. For example, if you located your passport pocket on the exterior of the bag, that might not be so functional because someone could easily access that. Whereas if it were on the interior, that might be more functional, more secure. And everything is going to be like that, with that ease of access in relation to function. So then the next and final phase of my design process, which I think a lot of people put first, and I think this should be the last aspect of the design process, is style or taste, right? We all have our preferred colors and fabrics and hardwares and, structure that we like. Like I like big, loose bags that take the shape of the contents, but many people like very structured bags with feet on the bottom and hard bases. And this is all just a matter of preference. And usually you can make any bag fit someone's style through your choice of materials. So next thing to consider are colors, right? You don't want to make a bag for yourself or anyone else in a color that you don't like. And the prints are equally as important. Depending upon the scale of the fabric, you can do all kinds of wonderful things. And you'll see as you watch everyone choose their fabric, and you're going to see dozens of different fabrics in play on these bags, how dramatic the change is. Even though it's the exact same bag, the choice in fabric completely changes the look of the project. Shape is also a consideration with style, as is hardware. We have oodles and oodles of choices now when it comes to hardware, and that is all so much fun. So we're gonna dabble in this whole fun world of design. For this next week, I want you to be considering if you would like to just build out this duffel bag with me and see how my design process fits into this central project, or if you'd like to start out with me and then grant yourself that permission to break off and go out there into the world of design by yourself. You're never alone, but I mean to customize the project to suit your specific needs. You have that option. Or if you're experienced, especially if you've been through a couple AMCs, start from scratch at the beginning and design your own piece, and then come to our group chats and get input and ask questions and so forth like that. So decide which design track you would like to take this week. If you want to build out this duffel bag with me, I am going to give you the pattern measurements that I have right now. I have cut out all of my pieces, but I have not started sewing yet, and I've never built a prototype of this bag. And I did that on purpose because despite all of my planning and all of my sketches, which I will show you here, there may still be something I missed. And as I come across that, I want to be able to show you what I do when I realize, oh, this won't work. So I highly recommend that you don't cut out all of your pieces until you watch the actual construction of whatever portion of the bag we're building out. Then there's no chance that you'll be wasting fabric. But this is the sketch of the bag here. And what's so cool about this is on the inside of this duffel, there are 3 separate compartments, and all 4 sides of each compartment have pockets, okay? So some of those pockets for me are gonna be elasticized and some are gonna be slip pockets. And then on the exterior side, I have 1 zipper pocket, and I think I'm going to put a 2-way slip pocket on the other side. And then there are accent panels on the exterior as well. I'd like to integrate some alternate type of material like leather or cork or vinyl or something fun like that to add some accents there. And so this is my interactive sketchbook, which I covered with you all how to create that in a couple of different videos. But basically how it works is I've used a rotary cutter and I've cut those pages so that I can list the measurements and such, attach fabric swatches, make notes and things, and then just be able to flip that over but still keep my sketch page there. And you can see the Route 66 bag right behind that. So you could keep drawing sketches of your bag and adapting that design as you need. if you get one of these spiral bound design books, and I highly, highly recommend that you have some type of design book for this process. You can create a digital one if you prefer, but to me, there's nothing more enjoyable than sitting with the sketchbook and pens and just having that quiet time. So I do think the sketchbook is pretty important if you can just indulge us and participate in that. So anyways, I'm going to give you these measurements, and next week, which is week 2, we're going to assemble the interior of this duffel, and then in week 3 we're going to assemble the exterior. And throughout this process, I'm going to be seeking your input as to how we can improve the design and what you would change about the design. I'm totally going to need your help with the zip top closure on this. I know how to install the zipper, but I have an idea that I'm still refining on how to do the sides with an accent flap that would open up and then allow that zipper to separate, so you could really take advantage of all of that compartment space. I think that would be super cool when you're actually on the trip to be able to open that up wide and live out of that bag. So I'm going to be seeking your inputs on that. So again, it's just going to be a sew and learn process for the next 4 weeks for myself as well as for you. So if you're interested in kind of looking over the pattern pieces, and if that helps you make a decision if you're going off on your own or you want to make this project, I'm going to provide all those measurements. Just know I may have to tweak them or change them. And so if you want to initially put them in your design book, and then we can always roll to another page as we make those changes. This project in total, I don't have a total fabric requirement for you, but I would set aside about 6 yards of fabric, maybe 3 different coordinating prints, 2 yards of each. In the end, I'll be able to give you a better estimate of how much fabric you need. I was just working from remnants that I have on hand, so I didn't buy cut yardage for this, but they were big pieces of fabric. So I'm guessing anywhere from 5 to 6 yards of cotton fabric, a nice variety of interfacing. I'm going to use probably some Pellon and some quilt batting on mine. I'm going to have the side zippers and a top zipper, and some elastic for the pockets, maybe some snaps for the slip pockets. So I know most of you have really well stocked sewing rooms, but in the event that you don't have something that you need, the process does span 4 weeks, and I'm leaving us lots of time on either side. So I still think you'd be able to order whatever you needed and finish the project, even if you hold off until next week to make your decision if you're going to sew this bag or design your own. You're also welcome to just follow along and not sew anything. Please feel free to jump on the calls even if you don't have a project to talk about, because you'll learn so much from these wonderful ladies. So that's how it's going to go. I cannot tell you how excited I am to see you all on Thursday. I will post a reminder with the link and all the details of how we're connecting as the date draws near. And so in between now and then, just decide if you're sewing with me, going to sew a variation, or if you're going to go off on your own. Get your sketch books together, and if you're going to follow along with me, perhaps start putting the measurements in your sketchbook. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I can hardly wait to see you on Thursday when we will discuss the design process and your project and what kind of materials you think you are going to craft that from, okay? So until then, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. Have a beautiful week, everyone.